Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your patience and being waiting for this great moment. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Paola Santamaria. I am professor at Yachay Tech University, and it's a pleasure to me being hosting this fabulous webinar this afternoon. So thank you very much for being here, and a special welcome to all ECUATESOLers, the ECUATESOL community that is here joining us for this webinar. Um, First of all, I would like to thank Andrea and Estefanía, which will be with us, and also a special thank to our sponsors. Remember that EcoTISL is an affiliate of TISL International Association, and this is done in partnership with Universidad Yachay Tech, Universidad Nacional de Educación, and also ITEP examinations. So thank you very much to all those sponsors that are having us today in here. We would like also to invite you to join us on our social media. You can scan the QR I'm showing you right now on screen. If you want to join us in Instagram, Facebook, and all of the other social media that we have, where we are also sharing not only webinars as the one that we are having this afternoon, but also some other news and interesting information and, in pro of joining our English as a second language community. So we would like greatly to have you around so we can spread the word from all Ecuador. Here's another one if you want to join Instagram, if it's your favorite. So you can join us as well by scanning these QR codes. This is another, okay? So if you want to be part of ECUATESOL community, which is sponsored by the Embassy of the United States, the only community that is sponsored by the Embassy of the United States. This is the QR you can scan in order to join us, so you can be part of our membership. It doesn't cost anything. It's free out of registration fees. So come on and join us. It's going to be interesting to have you around. We always be sharing interesting ideas around education, around how to make us grow as a community, and also on the importance of how Ecuador is strengthening the forces to have English as a good pillar in education in our country. So you are all invited to join us. Just fill out the form that you will find after the QR if you scan it this moment. Okay, and finally, here's our WhatsApp group. You know that WhatsApp is being our direct form of communication around institutions, friendship, and everything. And obviously, ECUATESOL has its own WhatsApp group. Here's where we spread the word out of the update moment. And if you want to join and learn and be the first ones on knowing what are the webinars we have, the news that we have, all the different trainings that we have in partnership with the US Embassy, you can also join the WhatsApp group, which is one way we have to have direct communication. And also, if you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, anything from webinars, also certificates and everything, you can contact us directly from this WhatsApp group that we have. So you are also welcome to join us in this group and scan, obviously, the QR, so it will take you directly to our WhatsApp group. Okay. Finally, as the last announcement that I have for today, this is our official Gmail, okay? So if you would like to address any invitation, any training, or any other further concern or doubt that you have, this is the way you can contact us directly. We're going to be more than pleased to answer and respond back with any of the suggestions, comments, or questions you may have. So inquiries are welcome to equatesol@gmail.com, right? So remember that teaching English, it's not just about conveying language, it's about empowering voices, bridging cultures, and unlocking the potential for global understanding. So this is connecting and uniting the TESOL community. So welcome once again. And it is the moment to introduce our two guests that will be facilitating today our presentation. And they are Licenciada Andrea Calderón and also Licenciada Estefanía Munzón. So Andrea is a 23-year-old English teacher at Cambridge English Institute in Cuenca, obviously here from Ecuador. And Andrea holds a bachelor's degree in English language teaching from Universidad Nacional de Educación. She is passionate about creating dynamic, student-centered classes that inspired active participation and meaningful communication. So thank you, Andrea, for being here, and welcome. We also have Estefanía Munzón. She is an English teacher with great experience in private tutoring. She got a bachelor's degree in language teaching at Universidad Internacional de Educación. And her teaching is strongly focused on student-centered approaches that transform traditional classrooms. This methodology has led to greater student autonomy, participation, and engagement in learning. So thank you also, Estefanía, for being here. And I will let all of you with them. So Andrea and Estefanía, the floor is all yours. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can start sharing yours and enjoy us with your fabulous presentation.
All right, so thank you very much for that introduction. It's a pleasure for us to be here as well. So, welcome everybody to this webinar we're going to be starting. And today we're going to share with you how communicative activities transform English learning in a student-centered classroom. So this is Andrea speaking, and as well I have my partner, which is Stefania here. So first of all, here we have an activity for you, and we want you to write a word that defines your teaching style. And we want you to do it through the Zoom chat, which is here. So you can use one or two words that you think that defines how you teach during your class time. We want to know, how do you consider yourselves doing teaching? Personalized, good. Discovery, pretty good. Can you think of any other word that you think that describes yourself when teaching? Let me see. I have here Alina, Daniel, Maura, Mercedes. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think we have more. Good. So that's pretty good. Actually, having a constructive is good. Having a personalized class, it's pretty good. I mean, you are aiming to have your students first, which is pretty important when we are doing our lesson planning as well. And also the constructivism is something that we are going to be talking and discussing today about as well. And discovery, very good. I mean, we need to have this creativeness for our students. They need to have the goal of aiming something that they are appealing to. So let's continue to our next activity. So here we have, what comes to your mind when you hear student-centered classroom? This activity, you will need to enter to the Mentimeter. You just will need to scan this or enter through the Zoom chat. I'm gonna send it to you. This is a link. And here, you will only need to write a word. What comes to your mind when you hear a student-centered classroom? And we will have it here. Let me see. Make this, yeah. So tell me if you're able to enter there. It appears to you. Personalization, tutoring, good. What else? When you hear student-centered, what comes to your mind? Active, tutoring, good. Students' needs.
Okay, a student-centered classroom, as you mentioned, it can be personalized. It has to be with the student needs. We need here students having an active role, and all the words that you wrote were really correct. Good. Okay, let's move on. Thank you for your participation. Okay, now today in this webinar we are gonna show you our thesis. We did this study in phases. First of all, we will be presenting to you the introduction, then we will move on to the theoretical framework, some little review, then we have the methodology that we use, then the implementation proposal, and the results, the conclusion, and some recommendations for the practical application.
All right, guys, so let's start with this little introduction from this. This is our study, and we did it, first of all, in a rural context. So we chose here a rural public school, which is located in Azogues. And in here, first of all, with the context, let's start. In here, we, as you may know, we need also to ask for permissions and also the agreement from the parents as well. And here we have the diagnosis. So first of all, when we stepped into this class, we acknowledged that the environment was pretty teacher-centered. So as you know, we have actually in the curriculum of Ecuador, we have the CLT approach, but not many schools in a rural context uses it. So also here a factor that influences this is that the teacher is a teacher who was between 50, 60 years old. So you also need to have the teachers that are updated to the nowadays methodologies. So here we acknowledge that the teacher was talking most of the time. So for example, the class was like 45 minutes long and the teacher was talking like 30 minutes and the students were barely speaking, were barely using the language itself. And why did we chose to do this? Basically, we wanted to improve the educational practices as were basically when we were doing this thesis, we were trying to apply the approach that was actually in the curriculum, and we wanted to go to the specific areas that are not using them and the specific areas that were needing them. Then here we have the research question that was guiding our path, and it was to what extent do CLT principles promote a student-centered environment with the same objective was to examine the extent to which CLT activities based on CLT principles contribute to student-centered environments. So let's go with the theory that we were using.
Okay, now let's turn to the theoretical framework. In here, we research some key concepts for our thesis in order to support our study. So first of all, we based our thesis in this theory that is the social constructivism. And here we choose the Lev-Vygotsky theory. And first, we have the zone of proximal development, the ZPD, that Amine and Azul 2015 mentioned that in here interaction and collaborative work is key. And also Muhayyimana 2017 mentioned that there must be interrelation in the class, maybe making group work. Then we have the student-centered and teacher-centered environment. First of all, as you can see in this little table, we have divided this student-centered class and teacher-centered class, what is the role of each one of them. And Emaliana 2017 mentioned that in a teacher-centered class, educators tend to manage learning experiences by planning and administering every step of the lesson. As you can see in this table, in a teacher-centered class, the teacher has an active role, whereas the student has just a passive one. And regarding the planning, there is not much teacher innovation because they tend to follow the books. Marquina and Garcia 2022 mentioned that in a student-centered classroom, teachers provide opportunities for students to talk. As you can see here, now we have the teacher just acting as facilitators and a student has an active role. And regarding the planning, here teachers can make some innovations, can incorporate some new activities. Next, please. Okay, now we have a key concept that is the student-centered class features. Kostadinovska and Popovic 2019 mentioned that here it is a must that we need to minimize the teacher talking time. And we need to maximize student talking time because they are the ones who need to practice. Teacher already has the study, has experience and everything, okay? So Jones 2007 mentioned that a student-centered learning can be attained even in big classes with the use of group work. And among the key features of a student-centered class, we have collaborative work, students are engaged, and the interaction.
Good. So moving forward to the next concept that we have, here we have the attitudes. So attitudes are the evaluations that people have regarding something. Could be people, object, places, or issues, as stated by Brignol in 2019. So we wanted to look at the attitudes from our students because we wanted to confirm by first-hand the information, because we wanted to know how they felt during this implementation that we have with them. So we needed to discover how they felt and what were the comments regarding those. Also, here we have another main concept, which is the CLT principles. And in here, we acknowledge that all the activities needed to be based on a real context, communicative competence, context conveys meaning. All the classes needed to have an activity or a game with communicative purposes. They needed to use it not only in here in class, but also like a purpose outside the classroom, and also like real communication settings, the same way. And in here we have the 5 activities we were using during this implementation. The first one is the mingle activity. Here we were using the find someone who, and also we were including some personal information questions. And they acknowledge also that with these kind of activities, they knew more about the other classmates, even though they were together like for 4 or 5 years. Also, here we have the role play. In here, we try to use like a real context. For example, if they are going to the cafeteria from the school, for example, what they are going to say if they were in an English context, for example. Also, here we have our favorite activity, which is the running dictation. This one was our favorite because this includes the movement of our students. So it's pretty kinesthetic and also that has more engagement from your students. And next one here we have the pyramid discussion. And in here, this one, our students needed basically to discuss between pairs, then going into groups of 4. And then we all as a class needed to decide into a certain topic that we were discussing about. And the last one was an interview. Basically, in here, we designed roles to every single student. So one of them was going to make the questions from the interview, and the other one needed to respond. So these are the activities that we were using during our implementation. And yeah, let's go with the methodology here.
Okay, here we have the type of research. Here we use a qualitative one in order to know more deeply about the opinions. And in this case, we needed to know the attitudes towards CLT activities from our students. The research method that we used was action research because here this allowed us to reflect, then implement something to change that, and then reflect again. It's all about reflection. And our participants are, as my partner mentioned before, we had 14 students and they were 8th graders between 14 to 15 years old. Okay, now we have the techniques and the instruments that we use. First of all, we use a structured observation technique. And from this, we got observation checklists. Here we have 4 observation checklists. One initial observation checklist in order to observe the first 2 weeks, in order to see if there is a teacher-centered classroom or a student-centered classroom. Then we have observation checklists for the student-centered features and the CLT activities, the principles of the CLT activities. And we implement them during our implementation phase. And at the end, we have a final observation checklist in order to see if we change or not the classroom environment. Then we have the reflection technique. And from this, we had reflective notes. In here, we had some questions about our teaching, about the activities, about the students' faces, and all the stuff in order to reflect what had happened in our classes. And finally, we have a self-administered survey technique. And from this, we got the questionnaire. This questionnaire was about the CLT activities, and in this, the students had to answer some of the, all the questions that we had in there. And now we have, as I mentioned before, we use action research, and we have 2 phases in here. First of all, exploratory phase. And in this, we have the plan to explore, where we had 2 questions in order to guide our observation. First, we have to what extent do students interact inside the classroom, and how often do the students produce the language. Then we move to the explore phase, and in here we actually apply our initial observation checklist. Then we analyze and reflect all the data obtained in that observation checklist, and we acknowledge that the students actually had a passive role. Then in the action phase, we have our plan to change. We use the CLT activities based on its principles. We use the 5 activities that my partner mentioned before. And in the act, we teach and observe. And in here, we applied the observation checklist about the student-centered features and the CLT principles from the activities. And then we observe. And in here, we were observing and filling out the instruments. In here, it's important to highlight that as we were 2, one of us was teaching and the other one was filling out the checklist. And at the end, we reflect about all the data, about all the classes, and we use some instruments that were the observations, the reflective notes, and the questionnaire. And in here, here we have an example of the reflective note instrument that we used during our implementation phase. As you can see, first of all, we have the objective of this instrument. Then we have the date, the CLT activity that we apply in that class, and the number of lessons. So we avoid to get lost. And we have here some questions, as I mentioned, about if there is real communication, active participation, socialization, and the interaction. And also we have some self-reflection and future adjustments that we could use or do. And in here, both of us were filling out this.
So here is the most important part of our thesis, which is the implementation proposal. So in here we came up with the Cultivating Minds program, which was the name of our intervention. And in here, first of all, you need, in case you are going to apply it, you need to, first of all, have the school curriculum, because you need to be adapting all the activities to this curriculum that they already have. After that, you have the activities which are selected to facilitate the interaction between students, the collaboration, and as well the cooperative work. Now, in here, as my partner mentioned, we were two. So one of us was teaching, the other one was observing. But in your case, you can have this little observation after you have done your class. And last, we have the post-class completion in a collaborative discussion to enhance and the information from the students. This step was done since we were two people, and we needed to do the same reflection as well together. And here you have a little example of the lesson plan that we had. So here you have the most important part, which are the materials. So for example, since this school was a rural one and a public one, you don't have many budget to have many instruments or materials that you may need. So you need to have in mind that. And also here you have the vocabulary that you will be using throughout the class, and also what you need the students to know. So in here also you can make use of the pre-teach technique in case your student don't know previously these exact words. You can pre-teach maybe using flashcards or some realia for them to have a previous idea of what they are going to do throughout the class. And then another important part are the anticipating problems and solutions. And in here, so for example, our students didn't have the enough knowledge. So for example, maybe they didn't know the pronunciation of some words. Our solution was to make repetition, to make use of these flashcards, to give them so they can look at them like in a close way. And also another problem was that students don't have the material to do some activities. So in this, our main purpose was to provide them with the proper material they were going to use. And also in here, what is important is the teacher and student activity. So in here, you write on detail what you will need to do and what you want your students to be doing during these certain stages. So for example, here we have that the teacher makes ICQs and the students need to answer these ICQs. And here you have a picture of our 14 8th graders students. And here we are applying an activity that is called the paper plane. In here, they had to write basically any doubts, any comments, or any improvement they wanted to see in the classroom. And as you can see, this is a pretty active and kinesthetic activity for them. They were pretty engaged and they were having fun as well. And let's go with the results.
Okay, let's continue with the results. In order to reflect on all the data that we obtained, we created categories, and we had 3 categories. The first one is CLT activities contribution. And from the observation checklist, we got that these activities were pretty helpful because they demand that interaction that we need. Also, the students had that active role that we needed as well. And students like classes with these activities because we were looking at them and we see how they were engaged in these activities. And from the questionnaire, we got some perceptions from the students, and they mentioned that they like these kind of activities. And also, all of them were new for them. So that is something that they really like. And also that they were kinesthetic activities, so they also like that kind of activities. Then we have our second category, that is the students' attitudes towards CLT activities. And from our observation, we noticed that they had smiling faces whenever they were doing the activities. They were interacting among them, so they got to know more each other. Also, we have more cooperative work in the class. And from their perceptions, they mentioned that they know more each other in that kind of activities. And they describe a feeling of happiness when they were in our classes and doing this kind of activities. And they feel also comfortable that it is important to have a really great class.
Yeah. So here we have wait a sec. Yeah, the student-centered environment. And here's from our observation, here we have that the peer interaction and support was really present during the classes. And also that our activities facilitated the student talking time. So here we notice that we were not talking most of the time. So our students were like interacting, talking to each other, and also that they found support among themselves. They were not asking us, but they found out that some of their peers already knew some things, and they were supporting on each other's. And also the social interaction and engagement was pretty present throughout the class time, since they had to be, for example, during work time, they needed to explain, to talk, to discuss about certain topics, and they needed to respond back. From students' perceptions, here we have that they like to share with their classmates, and also that they have preference to group work as well. And in here, it is also connected that they express that they were doing the things fastly. So, for example, if they had a previous activity, they were taking, for example, 10, 15 minutes, doing it by groups, they were like taking 7 or 8 or less than that. So they were feeling more engage with it as well. And here we have a comparison between the observation checklist that my partner mentioned before, which is before our intervention, and the final. And in here we can see differences between the talking time use. So in the first one, there was too much teacher talking time. And in the final observation, we can see that the student talking time was maximized. Then we have the cooperative work. In the first one, we have that there was a lack of cooperative work, but in the final observation here, we have that it was present most of the time. And to finish the engagement and interaction, here we have that the first observation showed a lack of engagement and interaction, since the students were only copying what was on the board, or just copying from the book and stuff. But with our intervention in our final observation checklist, we could see that the students had more engagement with their peers, more engagement with us teachers, and also they were having more interaction and also a real use of the English language itself.
Okay, to conclude, as you may notice, running dictation and the mingle activity were the most favorite activities by students and researchers, because this running dictation was like a competition and they love that kind of activities. And also mingle activities were like they needed to stand up. These two activities were more kinesthetic. That's why they liked the most. Students felt great and engaged with the dynamic activities. As we mentioned, they were smiling, they were interacting, they were participating in the class. And last, we have that CLT principles successfully fostered a student-centered environment, because through these activities and the principles, we can and we could foster a student-centered environment.
Yeah. So let's start with how can you apply this in your classes. So first we have came up with the ADAPT protocol. And here we have each word each letter, which is standing for a certain step. And in the first one here, the first step that you need to take is to assess. So in here, first, you need to acknowledge who speaks the most during your classes. Is it you? Is that your students? How much time and with what success? So in here, it is important for you to first knowledge and to make notes of everybody so you can compare at the end if you make an intervention. Then you have letter D, which stands for define. And in here, you need to have a clear communicative goal. So for example, if your goal was to make questions regarding, I don't know, present simple, you can acknowledge also if 80%, for example, of your students asked and answered 3 questions about likes. So for example, do you like pizza? Do you like this or that? So you can acknowledge if your students actually did that. Then you have letter A, which stands for adapt. And in here, you need to match the activity to your resources. So first, you can have the time, the space, the materials, but as well, you can have the context. So for example, if you are teaching in a public school, in a private school, if you are teaching to kids, to teens, to adults, you need to adapt these activities. We're going to be talking about that in some minutes. And then we have letter P, which is pre-teach. And here, it is key for you to teach previously vocabulary and phrases that they are gonna be using during the class, so they can know beforehand what they will need to use, what they will need to have. And also you will need to model the procedure. You will need to show them. And in here you will you can make use of the chunking. So in here you can chunk your classes. You can show the stages that you will have in your class. So for example, the warmer, the first activity, the first explanation, you can show them how they will be completing that class. And the last one, which is teach and monitor. And in here, you will have to run the activity with clear timing and roles. And in here, you will have to set a timer for them. They will need to know how much time they have to each activity they need to use, they need to do, and also the roles that they will have. So for example, if you are doing a debate, for example, you will need somebody that is the leader of the group, the one that is going to speak, the other one that is going to take notes, maybe the other one that is going to present the final conclusion, for example. They will need to know what role and what exactly they will have to do during this lesson. And the most important one is the reflection. As you may noticed, during our thesis, the reflection was the most important part for this, because with reflection, you can adjust your further lessons. So here you can notice whether an activity worked or not, what kind of activities could be helpful for you, which one was useful, which ones would you try if that kind of activity fostered communication. For example, if we had like running dictation, how can we adapt it, like modify it, so our students can be engaged as well with the same kind of activity?
Okay, now let's go to how to apply it, but in urban public schools. The context in here may be that there can be just one projector per school or few classrooms. Also, you may have between 35 to 45 or even more students. You can also have mixed or low English proficiency students. And also you may have a limited budget. That could be some of the characteristics that you can find in these kind of schools. So for that, we can use these following strategies. First of all, we have the low-tech CLT. For example, in here, in the running dictation, you can use paper or sticky notes to write a sentence or whatever you want to use in the running dictation, instead of using the slides or the projector. So for example, you can write prompts in there on the board and then you do the activity. Then we have chunking groups. You can divide into small groups the class. For example, if you have 40 students, you can have 8 groups of 5, for example. Then the scaffolding language. In here, you can, if your students do not have enough vocabulary, you can use the word banks. Like, for example, you paste or some words or short phrases that they may need for the activity. So they can look at them and use them whenever they are doing the activity. For example, in the mingle activity. Then we have the maximized movement. So in here, basically are the kinesthetic activities. For example, your students can walk around the class to collect answers or to interact. And the quick evidence in here, if you have a lot of students, you can use posters or oral reports. For example, if you have some presentations, maybe you can have the group's presentations, maybe they could use just one sentence at the end or some reflection about the activity or stuff like that. Okay, sorry. Now we have the adaptations regarding the activities that we applied in our study. First of all, we have the running dictation. As I mentioned before, you can use small sentences and then you post them into the hallway or walls, and you can make big groups and just choose one runner. And then you can do like a competition. For the mingle activity, you can have some papers with questions, and then you can give them the instruction of maybe in 5 minutes they have to find 5 people, and you have to ask them just one question or two. So at the end, you can have 2 or 3 volunteers to report their partner's answers. For the role play, you can have groups as well. You can have between 3 to 4 groups to present, and then you can help the activity with the peer assessment. So you can have all your students like doing something. And then for the pyramid debate, here you can use another activity that is pretty good as well, that is gallery walk. And in here, as you may know, you can create groups. They have to create posters. Maybe you can do, make them do some dialogues and make, I don't know, find some solutions about something. Okay, something key here is that for this kind of context, you have to keep it short, keep your class short. You can have more kinesthetic activities, make it physical. You have to use the scaffolding, and also you can support the language.
Now let's go with the next context, which are urban and rural private schools. And in here you have some context advantages, some features of this, which is that you may have like 25 to 30 students, more or less. And these are smaller classes compared to the public schools. Also, you can have more instruments, more supplies. So you can have projectors, you can have internet, you can have speakers, you can have also like budget to print some material that you may need. Also, you can find students which have stronger English proficiency. And you can find like mixed levels, but you will find more or less more students that have a stronger English proficiency, and also the budget for materials, and also the use of digital tools. In here, the adapted strategies that we have is that you will need to make the taking haste CLT and plugins. So here you can use a platform such as YouTube. Here you can use it as a platform where they can upload videos. Maybe they need to record, I don't know, maybe their daily routine, maybe an interview with a partner, with a family member, for example. Also, you can make use of Kahoot and also platforms such as Blueket or Rumblezoo, which are pretty good platforms. These combine games and interaction in order for your students to practice and use the language itself. And here you can make a recalls of all the vocabulary you have been using, all the structures that you will need them to practice and stuff. Also, here you have the authentic input. In here as well, you can use YouTube, for example, to make the interviews, make them record themselves. Also, they can upload audios if they are practicing, for example, the pronunciation of a certain song. For example, they can upload it to YouTube as well. And also they can watch a blog. So they will need to have a summary of what they were seeing during that specific video, yeah? And next one here we have the higher responsibility. So in here you will need to expect polished products. So for example, with the videos, you will need them to have a certain time, and also you will need to ask them to have it like in an edited way. So you will need it to have an order, how they are going to present. They will need an introduction. They will need the specific content, and at the end, a certain final for it. And in here, you can also have complex tasks. So in here, you can assign some kind of debates with them. You can discuss in here some trending topics that are happening, for example, in the country right now. Some specific topics that may not be that easy to discuss. They will need some preparation before. So in here, they will need to make use of higher vocabulary in order to know how to defend themselves and how to respond and ask different type of questions they will be using. And in here we have another examples of CLT. And here we have the role play and video. Here as well, they can record short role plays and upload them. And the rest of the class can make a peer review in classes, or they can leave comments in that platform. Also, here we have the mingle with tech. In here, you can have a QR code. As you may have noticed, we showed you a QR code when you were doing the Mentimeter. So you can have that kind of stuff with your students. So you can print it out and you can put it throughout the class or on the walls, and you can ask them to scan and to respond and to rotate. Then you can have the debates, and also you can make use of the pyramid discussion. So this one basically starts with a pair. They need to take a decision. Then it goes up to 4 people, then it goes up to 8 people, and so on until we as a whole class take a decision of the topic that we are looking at. And here you can make use of the projector to have the prompts in there. And also in here you can have the time tracking. So you can set a timer and a specific timer for each round that they are going to discuss. So they will have, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes to discuss about that and to take a decision. And the last one that we have is running dictation with a digital twist. So in here you will have to show parts of a text. So running dictation is basically they will need to copy something from the original to the other one by telling one student has to run to the original picture and go back to his classmates or her classmate to tell him what he saw. So in here you can have, instead of only a picture, you can have a text, and you can give them like 5 seconds maximum to memorize all that they could, and they will need to reply to his their classmates. Yeah, that's it, I think. Yeah, what is key in here is that you need to challenge them with authentic and creative tasks. As well, that the tech is a tool to extend interaction, not just to present. You need to make use of this technology not only to present the book, not only to present the slides and stuff, you need to use them to extend the interaction and the communication with your students.
Now let's see how we can apply with kids. As you may know, kids are more visual. So you can use games, song, total physical response. It's pretty helpful in here because, as you know, kids learn through the movement. So for example, the teacher can say jump or touch red, and kids can act it out. Also, to model the activity, as I already explained to you, and also they are fancy of rewards. So you can give them some rewards, not always, but you can do it like occasionally, maybe. So they can have that motivation to participate. Okay, now regarding the activities, here in the running dictation, you can use not sentences, but you can use drawings or a picture, so they can just draw it down. Or maybe you can have a cat, a ball, or an apple. And the student who is running, he or she can say like, there is a cat under the table or something like that. Regarding find someone who, kids here can ask with visuals. Like, for example, you can print some visuals like pizza, for example, and then you can ask them, do you like pizza? And they can say yes or no, whatever they do. Then we have the role playing, and in here we can use the everyday situations. For example, buying the school cafeteria, or asking for a toy, or for something that they need in the class. And in here, it's crucial for us to use with kids chants, because they love songs. So they can even dance in these chants. They can learn a dialogue through these chants. So they sing, learn, and act it out.
Yeah. So let's go to the next age, which are our teens. And in here we have that some characteristics of them is that they have fear of embarrassment when they are in front of the class, and also they feel the peer pressure. So they feel like the others are judging them. Maybe they make mistakes while talking, if they said something that it was not clear. So they feel this pressure. And also that you may find mixed levels. So some students can have a higher level, the other ones may be low. So you can find this in your classes. Also, here we have that they have more interest in music, in social media, in sports, and in trends that are happening right now. And also you can use here the competition as an advantage for you. As you saw when we were applying our thesis, we were with kids, with teens, I mean, they were between 13 to 15 years old. And the competition was a pretty good advantage for us because that gave them the purpose of doing something while using the language itself. And here we have some activities that you can use. The first one is the run into story dictation. You can change here the picture that my partner was telling you. Instead of using just a simple picture, here you can start to use a story or a song lyric, and they will have to reconstruct it with their other peers. Then you have here the mingle. Here you can make use of the speed dating style. And this is pretty good because you can rotate every minute, every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes, the time you will need to use. And also you can ask deep questions. For example, what's your favorite subject? That could be the first one. Then you can go further and further. So would you rather be happy or would you rather to be a millionaire, and to give reasons? So this allows you to have more deep answers and more deep questions as well. Then you can have the role play, and in here you need to make use of better topics like topics that are relevant to them. So, for example, if they are going to Starbucks, how would they order a specific thing? How would they plan a trip? Where would they go? What are the supplies they will take in with them and stuff? And also, how would you convince your parents? So, for example, to go to a concert, to go to a trip, to go to a party, they will need to make use of a certain language as well.
Okay, now let's see with adults. In here, you may have a time limited. You can have your students anxious about making mistakes. Even if they are adults, they still are anxious about that. Here you need to focus on the relevance. Maybe they may be thinking about their works, about that they have to travel, or about their families. And in here, it's important to use authentic materials like emails, podcasts, and news clips. Next one, please. Okay. And regarding the activities, for them, you can use the running to professional twist. Like, for example, they can make short work emails, like you can practice with them the writing part, maybe meeting notes or travel dialogues. In the Mingle networking game, you can find someone who has traveled abroad, uses English at work, for example, so they can be asking among them and with their partners. Real world role play. In here, you need to take into account about what is going on around them in order to be more catching for them. Like, for example, job interview, hotel check-in, something that they may do in some point in their lives. Maybe a doctor visit, a business call, or something like that. And for the debate, you can make a discussion circle. Like, for example, in here, you can put into practice their speaking with talking about current events, social issues, a trip, or designing an ad campaign, maybe.
So let's go with some concerns that you may have while using these activities. So the first concern that you may have is, what if my students refuse to speak? So in here, you can start with some pair work so they don't feel like they are exposed to the rest of the class. And in here, you can give them cards with certain questions that they need to ask each other. For example, what's your favorite food? And stuff, like, just to break the ice, just to begin with. So even shy students usually answer with one word, but they still do it. The next question that you may have is, won't I lose the control of the classroom? And in here, you need to assign roles. So the timer, the note speaker, the note taker, for example, and saying that you are going to talk less doesn't mean that you are losing the control, doesn't mean that you are stepping back, but means that your students are stepping up. So they need to be the main characters of your whole lesson. So you are not losing the control, but providing them with the space to actually use the language. The next question you may have is, my curriculum is too rigid. How do I fit the CLT? And in here, for example, if a unit goal is present simple, you need to adapt it during the mingle activity, for example. So you will use an easy structure for them, and you will need to match it with your curriculum. This is also connected with what we told you. If you are going to use it, you don't need to choose just a random topic. You as well need to be aligned with the curriculum as well. But you at least will need to make use of one CLT activity during your class time. So you will need to adapt it to your class.
Okay, another question could be, how do I assess without long exams? For example, if you are doing a role play, maybe in order to assess them, you can use a rubric like just with 3 criteria. Like, for example, fluency, interaction, and accuracy. And each one can be scored like between 1 to 3 points or something like that. And then you can like grade quickly if you have many students. But also you can use peer assessment as well. You can make the other students to assess themselves or to their partners. Next, please. Okay, can this work for exam preparation classes? Well, for example, in the speaking part from Cambridge, specifically in CAE exams, in part 3, we have a part where we need to reach to a decision with our partner, and we have like 5 topics in there. For that, you can use a debate to prepare them for that specifically part of the exam. Next, please. And what if students lack vocabulary? For example, in here, as I mentioned before, you can use the word bank, or you can have phrases in the board, so you can motivate your students to talk because they already have the vocabulary that they need to use for that specific activity. So they do not have that afraid of failing or to making mistake, because they already have the vocab and they just need to use.
And let's go with the last question, that is, how long until results show? So during our intervention, we did it through, was like 4 weeks long. It was like a short time, but with further time, you will see better results. So we did it like for 1 month, and we saw like brilliant results in here. So I would say like maybe from 3 to 4 sessions, you will see differences with your students. Even the more shy people tend to speak like at least one sentence with 4 or 5 words and using the vocabulary they were learning with you. So this is a matter of having this in a constant way. So the more you use these activities, the more your students will feel comfortable doing this and speaking and raising their voices up. And let me see, I think. Yeah. So as our final activity, we want you guys to participate in this, which is a little Kahoot that we have for you. And here you will have main questions regarding our main concepts and also the main activities that we were doing. And also only for you to check some key concepts. So let me see, I'm gonna share with you the link. Wait, I think it's this one. Yeah. So in here, you will need to either scan the code or enter Kahoot, www.kahoot.it, and enter this code, or just scan the QR code. Okay. Who are seeing your comments. They don't like to speak. Yes, they are afraid of speaking, mostly because they don't feel confident that they have the enough vocabulary to do so. So if you teach them the vocabulary they need, they might feel a little bit more comfortable doing so. They are nervous or think they are ridiculous. Exactly. They feel that because they lack the vocabulary to do so. So they don't feel like they are doing the things right. So you need to provide them. You need to be patient as well. That's why I'm telling you, you need like 3, 4 sessions to do so, because the first session, you will notice that it's like a kind of a shock that they are facing because they are not used to do so, like not much. So you will need to be patient and you will need to trust the process. basically. Here comes how many are we? We're 28. Oops. Mm, I think we can wait like 1 more minute for you to enter. So let me set this time. Yeah. Just 10 more seconds and then we start. Yep. Let's see. Yeah. So let's go. The first question is, what best describes a student-centered classroom? Yes, let's give it here. Yeah. Good. So the correct answer was students actively participate and take responsibility for their learning. Now, one of you chose the focus is on memorizing facts for tests only. I don't think that's the main purpose. I think the one is students actively participate and are engaged with their learning. Let's go to the next question. We have first Haley on the top. Good. Next one. What is the main goal of communicative language teaching? Good. To develop, I think I have a comment here. Good. Oh, yeah. To develop meaningful communication. Let me see. Let me see if we can. Wait a sec. I don't think we can share the link. Wait a sec. Let me see if I can share the link through Zoom. Things. Can you try to scan? I mean, you can enter the code that is here, like down here, and let me know. Let me know if you can, yeah? In the meanwhile, we're gonna continue. And we have Haiti on top as well. Find it out. Next question is, which theory supports CLT and emphasizes learning through social interaction? Let's see if I can enter. Let's see. Yeah, very good. Social constructivism. This is the theory that allows us to have the social interaction as a main part of our learning. Behaviorism, this is more for the activities when you are rewarding your students for doing a certain activity, but the activity themselves need to have the social constructivism theory. Let's go with the next, which is in a student-centered classroom, the teacher's role is mainly. Let me see if I can enter here. Good, a facilitator, a knowledge transmitter. Could be a knowledge transmitter, but when you are talking, I mean, when you're explaining the certain things you need to explain, but mainly in a student-centered classroom, is where students are the main characters, so they will need to do the most of the class. So you will need to facilitate them things. So you can explain, but while they are talking, while they are communicating and interacting, you will need to be the facilitator instead of only a knowledge transmitter. Let's go with the next one. So we have Haiti at the top as well. Next. Yeah. The question is, what research approach was used in this thesis? Let's see if you remember. Good. So in this case, we used action research. It was a qualitative approach. This allowed us to reflect and as well to have qualitative data. And experimental design, not quite. Let's see. Good, Heidi, even Carlos at the third. Then we have, what is the most important part of action research? The most important. Good. So we have reflection and results. Look, in action research, if your results are not like the ones you were aiming for, it doesn't matter. I mean, action research is for you to improve your teaching practices. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't go as well as you want it to be. But the main important part in here is the reflection. So you can reflect. For example, if you finish doing action research and you see that your results are not good enough, you can reflect in what happened, how they were feeling, what activities succeed, which ones didn't. So the reflection is the most important part because it allows you to make adjustments in your lessons. So reflection is the most important part of this. Let's see, Heidi, Carlos, and Dylan. Good. Let's go to the next one. What is the main purpose of running dictation? Let's see. You have a runner, a writer. Let's see. Good, very good, guys. That was perfect. So yes, basically running dictation combines all the four skills. In here, the listening, the speaking, the writing, and the teamwork. Very good. This is aimed to cover all the skills. Let's go to the next one. Good, Heidi, Carlos, and Dylan, the first three. What happens in a mingle activity? Good, perfect. The students rotate to interact with multiple classmates. Very good. So the first aim is for them to interact and to know a little bit more about themselves. Very good. Good. We have Heidi, Eve, and Carlos. Let's go to the next one. Which CLT activity was the most favorite by students in this study? Let's see if you remember. We have two answers. No. In this study, specifically in the study that we did, running, dictation, and mingle were the most favored, basically because this involved so much of kinesthetic movement. So these one, the preferred ones by our students. Let's see. Katie, Eve, and Carlos, good. Let's go. Which group benefits from props, songs, and short playful tasks? Teens, kids, or adults? What do you think? Good, very good. Kids. I mean, teens, when they are starting to be teens, but in otherwise, if they are like 18 years old, they will not find it fun to have songs, for example, or playful just like hide and seek, for example. Otherwise, with kids, we have this like they are more actively like they like to be moving around and stuff. So good. Let's see, Heidi and Dylan, good. Here we have which CLT adaptation is most suitable for adults. Which one of these is best for adults? Good, very good. So role plays for workplace situations. This one, basically, the topics with your adults need to be relevant for them. They will be needing to use it like in a short time. So they need to have a relevant topic to discuss about. We have Heidi, even Carlos, good. And let's go with the last question, which is which CLT adaptation works best for teens? Good. So some of you chose picture detection with animals. Yeah, good. This one has to do with the picture that Estefanía was talking about when talking about kids, because for them it's easier. They might not recognize some words, some specific structures. So there you will need to use with pictures of animals, of food, of prepositions of place, for example, as Stefania said, like the cat is under the table, only with pictures. It's more suitable for kids. But with teens, we can use the speed dating and style in mingle. So they can rotate and speak for 1, 2, 3 minutes and change their partners to be speaking and speaking and speaking. And let's see the podium. Here we have Carlos in the third place, good. Eve in the second place, very good. And Shady in the first place. Very good. Dylan and Hector close to the podium. Good. Let's see. Yeah. I can edit. Okay. Oh, wait a second. Yeah. So let's go back to the presentation. Yeah.
Okay, so now we prepared for you a handout. Here we had some key ideas, the process from this study, and how to apply the things that we mentioned before, and the CLT activities that we applied in this study. Let's look at it. Okay, in here we have the title of our thesis. Then we have the key ideas, the increasement, the student talking time, that unit kinesthetic activities, the technology use, and the reflection. Also, here we have the section of how to apply it. Here we have the adapt protocol and the different ages that we may teach and how to adapt this into your classes. And also we have the process, as we mentioned before. First of all, we start with the observation, then we have the implementation proposal with the instruments that we applied, with the activities that we applied, and at the end, we use the observation as well and the questionnaire. And here we have the 5 CLT activities that we used with its principles. And at the end, we have some recommendations for you. For example, you need the necessary knowledge, grammar, and vocab to teach your students. Also, to include a variety of activities to maintain the dynamism, as we mentioned, the kinesthetic activities, something that where they can interact. Also introducing activities such as breathing exercises, positive reinforcement, hands-on activity, etc. So here you can use some of these kind of activities to motivate your students or to make them feel active in class. And last but not least, establish rapport with your students to ensure that they are eager to learn. This is key for us as a teacher, because if they do not like the teacher to say like that, they may feel like that anxiety to do not come to the class or something like that. So it's important for us to establish rapport with them. This, we will be sending you the link of this handout so you can have it. Maybe you can print it down or stuff. Let me. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So as the last activity with you guys, we want you to write on a Mentimeter as well. What is the key takeaway from this workshop for you? So here is the most important thing that you have from this workshop and that you are taking with you home. Let me see. So in here, wait a second, I'm gonna share with you the link as well, which is this one. I'm gonna share it through the chat in here, which is, wait a sec. Yeah, that one. So can you please enter the Mentimeter and share with us your key takeaway? And I'm gonna be presenting this. Yeah. If you cannot open the link, you can scan here the QR as well, so you can enter here. So you will need just to write 1, 2 words. No more. Just good. Engage students. Good. Student center works. Good. The CLT, very good, which is the main approach. Learning. Good. Yes, what else? What else do you think is important? Making learning cool. Very good. Very good. Connected with them. Good. Using trending topics. Using stuff that they like nowadays. Mhm. See, what is one of the most important concepts you saw here? Adapt to ages and likes. Very good, very good. You need to adapt indeed to the ages and the likes that they have, the preferences they have, the abilities they have as well. It's actually coming here. Let's see, just one last minute for you to write your takeaway, and then we can finish. Make learning cool, good. That's it. Useful strategies, good. Oh, that's there. Engage students. Learn new strategies, yes. You need to be in an ongoing update for you. You need to be looking at some new strategies. Relevant English, perfect. Relevant English, especially with your teens and with your adults. They will need it more than kids, I would say. They will need to use it outside classroom in real life context. So yeah, that's pretty good. And 3, 2, 1. Yeah. So that's the end of this activity. Thank you very much. And with that, we have reached the end of this presentation. So thank you very much for being here. And thank you very much also, ECUATESOL, for having us here today. And if you have any questions, we are here to answer.
Thank you very much, Estefanía and Andrea. It was an outstanding presentation. We would like to thank you once again. And yes, let's see if as I finish up thanking you, ladies, we could hit some questions from any of the participants or any comments or suggestions through the chat or simply unmuting your mics so you can intervene. Undoubtedly, Stephanie and Andrea, I may say that you have led off with a clear tip on how to make our classes student-centered and how to adapt it to the different age group of students. That was wonderful. So thank you very much for those tips. Definitely. Very, very remarkable. Yeah, in the chat, we can see that people is thanking you very much for all the tips and the ideas you presented. Yeah, certainly. They were really, really nice. I like it pretty much when you were giving us the tips to adapt to teens, children, adults. It was awesome. Thank you very much, ladies. I think that could be it. So if you could stop sharing your screen so I may go for our final words. It's been a very enriching afternoon. So thank you very much to all the attendees. And especially once again, I would like to thank our sponsors. I showed this in the beginning, but one more time, okay, we could not leave. Once again, thanking our sponsors. Remember, ECUATESOL is the only affiliate of TESOL International Association, and this is in partnership with Universidad Yachai and Universidad Nacional de Educación, and obviously ITEP Ecuador examinations. We would like to also invite you to join us in our different media. This is the QR if you are willing to join and see how our website is working and everything we're posting there. Also, if you like more being an Instagrammer, we also have a social site in Instagram, ECUATESOL. This is the QR if you would like to join us through Instagram. And also, if you would like to become a member of ECUATESOL, this is the QR you need to scan in order to become a member. As you know, it's free of charge, just via the QR I'm showing you right now, and you could join us as well. Finally, if you would like to have a direct contact or touch with us, this is the QR for you to join our WhatsApp group. Remember that directly here you will receive updates about our upcoming events, wonderful events like we had this afternoon through Estefanía and Andrea. So once again, thank you very much, all of you, for being here, devoting your time to be prepared and enrich as well with the different ideas that our English teachers are performing around their different classes will definitely teach us every day something else. We will be announcing our next webinar, so be attentive to our next sessions, and I'll hope to see you all again back here. Stay safe and sound, and have a great, great evening. Thank you once again, Estefanía and Andrea. See you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.